If you kind of look there,
Okay.
right, and we're just going to
What
start.
will I do with my hands then? Okay, yeah.
I'm not going to draw your hands.
Okay.
I'm actually concentrating on just getting a composition of a rectangle. So that's me doing almost a straight-on passport photo type sketch to begin with, just to start becoming familiar with your features, with your shoulders, with your neck, and already at this point I can say that is enough for this drawing, because I'm going to turn the paper over and do another one.
Okay.
One, two, three. Drawing number 2 next with drawing number 3. We're getting somewhere. And already at this point in time I'm becoming fed up with your shirt, because I don't really foresee in the future any joy or any great interest in painting the shirt. And I think I like the hands, but I think it'd be more dramatic against the dark. So the hands, the same hands used like in drawing number 3, but against the dark. So would you come back with some kind of different, maybe a jacket on or something? We'll try it that way. I think you might get more out of this drawing. A little bit more intensity. So now I'm going to draw a portrait of the head and a portrait of the hands, because obviously I'm going to now use artistic license and I'm going to come closer to you, so that the distance, the picture distance isn't so far as it, again, because it's still a number of feet away, and I'd like it to be more intense closer in. So we do the same. I like the pose, and we just change the distance a little bit, so everyone's going to become slightly bigger. Okay. Almost as a model is like a clay blob at the beginning of a sculpture. So now I'm going to take that as the beginning point. I'm going to draw in detail the portrait and the hands, and that's the main thing. So the composition is fine. I need closer in. It's like looking at a sculpture from maybe 10 feet away. I'm going to go in and capture the details and draw in just from memory. So far, we've done so many sketches. We've done 4 line sketches, and I'm doing a portrait. We've talked about it from passport, then we've got the shirt sleeves, then we've got a jacket. It's becoming something. Have you got any idea in your head how you envisage a portrait of you looking like?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So there's no.
It was to see
up
what.
to me.
Yeah. Isn't it? Is it not up to you?
The actual doing of it, yes, is up to me, but you can be of an influence in terms of, like, if you say, oh, I don't like the idea about wearing this jacket because it's too hot.
No, I quite like it. It is quite hot. But,
I
mean, would you paint a painting to match somebody's curtains?
Uh-huh.
You would?
If I thought the curtains were pretty or picturesque, yeah. If I didn't like the curtains, no. Of course not. Why would you?
So, I mean, really, I think, as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of, I leave it up to you.
So there's no vanity attached at all then?
No.
So it wouldn't be upsetting for you if it looks ugly or something?
Not really. I mean, if you're entering into a contract like this anyway, you've got to it is what it is, isn't it?
So I'm not bound by in any way that, oh, I don't look like that, I look much better than that, or you've made me look old or something. These are not issues.
Is that something you've been thinking of?
I know if I was getting a portrait done, I would be, I would not worry, but I would be concerned about how it looked. Not just how much it looked like me, but I would be concerned about, like, I would think, oh, you don't really like me, eh? Or things like that, yeah.
Do you think that's a possibility?
No. Again, for the same reason, if I'm sitting drawing it, the only way that it will not look like you or it will be detrimental is if I am not doing my job right and not following the steps. Actual colour. I'm going to make it so it's warm blue. Touch of green. I'm going to make quite a lot of this colour because it's got quite a lot of surface to get over. I'm trying to get the tone of the blue first and then I'll adjust the temperature of it with yellow. Light affecting it. A darker version, a lighter version will follow, but for the moment, local colour for the sea, which is occupied. This is still diagram. I'm still keeping this as a diagram, it's not a painting as such. This is the colour that I've mixed up to paint the local colour on the diagram of Mike's face and hands. It neither has light nor shadow. That is the local colour, i.e. if he was to put foundation on, this is his actual colour of his skin. As you can see, it's perfectly matching with his hand. And if I was to paint on his hand, the paint would disappear, much like makeup. Doing this, the painting is then complete in 4 elements: skin, which is the body, the jacket, the sea and the sky. And that's it. Stage 1. The jacket is now the main colour which was underneath. I'm using a darker and a lighter version which blends in of the same colour, which keeps the uniformity of the jacket's colour. So it's still a dark blue jacket, but now it has a light source. The head and the sea and the sky don't have a light source yet, but this is what I'm going to do with the other 4 elements in the painting, and then that's stage 2. So when it's all the same dark light, it can be blended, so therefore you can render the forms. Underpaint. So the next thing I do is the same with either the head and hands, the sky or the sea. And for this I'm going to paint the sky now. So that's the local colour for the sky, and I'm going to do a lighter and a darker version as I've done in the jacket, which is going to be slightly more simple at this point in time, but so that everything is now working in space as opposed to a diagram, which the face is still a diagram in the hands.
It looks just like my father.
Nice. don't want you to end up looking like some sort of hard guy who's out of work from fishing. He's hit the bottle or something like that, you know? But he's a bit of a character. Hopelessly.
Wrong.
Yeah. Plus, it's not even a true persona. I mean,
You saying I'm not hard?
you do look like the guy with the boy from the black stuff, eh? Who's that actor?
Yosser Hughes.
It does look like him.
So last week we had started off, we sort of talked about a maritime theme,
Yeah.
and we've decided on Wednesday we had a lapse of confidence about that. And we decided to change it. Can you say anything about that?
Yeah. It was more as a result of seeing it in its first stage. It suddenly struck me that this was going to turn out to be some kind of pastiche of a Scottish style portrait in the vein of John Bellingham or something like that, or with a kind of kitschy, Scottishy twang, which I thought would be disrespectful to them, plus disrespectful to you or I as well, because we're not really in that sort of vein, and I don't see you doing a portrait of you, I don't see a representation of you, as being honest, in that vein. So, therefore, I thought, right, okay, I don't actually think, right, this is going to be Mike, this is a portrait of Mike, this is going to be someone, you don't want it just as a pastiche, like an act for the cameras, whatever. So we're actually going to make a portrait which serves its purpose, it's something you can actually have. I mean, like, seriously. But I don't want to do it, and you know.
Okay.
So we changed it.
Right. Okay. So it's okay. Right. So we're starting from scratch again. We're gonna.
No.
You've painted the background out.
I painted the background out. The background now is non-background. It's nothing.
Okay.
It's all of the taking the seascape background away is now, for me, that's like drawing. It takes that out of the equation. So now it's just blank. It's almost like a passport type background.
Do you think I'd get through customs?
Not yet. No. No.
Okay.
So yes, it's changed. There is, because of not to make sort of like light of conversations that we had about your background, about your dad being a sea captain. There still is a maritime element in it in the jacket.
Okay.
That stays. So
Right.
that's enough.
Okay.
So what I did between the last sitting and this sitting was isolate the figure, work on the pose a little bit through the drawings that I did last week, to get it slightly more central, balanced, and I didn't work on the hands of the face, and that's what I'm going to do now, today.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off by drawing again,
Right.
which is phase 3 of
Okay.
the portrait. After you've made, the thing actually now exists not as a portrait but as a figure standing against the background with a jacket on, blah 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 blah. So now I've got to personalise it, which means that we're now beginning to make it into a portrait as opposed to a vague human figure with a dark jacket and hands clasped.
And I remember your earlier work had much more stuff in it, didn't it? You had lots of items, you had lots of knickknacks in the painting.
Still do, but this is a portrait.
So would you still have that? Yeah. Peripheral
Some-
stuff?
Depends on it. My paintings used to be jam-packed with everything I could think of.
Yeah.
Whereas now, for instance, if I was going to do a painting of, say, the week's shopping, right? In the past, I would get a shopping trolley and take all the stuff out, put it on the table and do a painting of everything that I bought. Whereas now, I would take everything out as I bought it separately and paint it on one singly maybe, and then have it in a room together.
So what's important about that? Remember, somebody we were at college with, Charlie Farrell,
Yeah.
always used to have a war cry in the pub late on, about what's wrong with a vase of flowers, because he always felt that a painter should be able to just paint something iconic like that and not worry about the meaning or the of the content.
There's not.
Is that a similar thing they have?
I don't think no. I don't think a vase of flowers has got anything special. It has got because it. If you feel like painting a vase of flowers, why not? I don't think it should be but you've got to be aware that if you are painting a vase of flowers, you are making a statement. I mean, yes, and also it's like someone who maybe does a painting but nods to candlelight or dark backgrounds and stuff like that, which don't exist. So it's like what you're doing is you're entering into a genre, like I was talking before about this. Me being beware, hold on, you're entering into a Scottish portrait tradition. No, don't want to do that because it's disrespectful to that. Plus, I'm not interested in it.
But you are in Scotland, aren't
I'm in Scotland, yeah. But you or I are both slightly odd. We're not one-offs, we're not misfits, but we are odd in the fact that we spent a lot of our adult life outside Scotland and then returned to Scotland middle-aged, for me, middle-aged. So it's a kind of odd experience. I mean, I would say I was, yeah, of course we're Scottish, but doesn't mean to say I've got like this Harry Lauder look or something, you know?
So in this portrait, would you, you talked about keeping the design on the buttons as a nod to the history of the jacket as much as anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, will you put anything else? Will you give me a pipe or a...
No.
Or what?
You don't smoke a pipe?
I've been known to.
A pipe, no, if I right, a pipe, you've got to understand that you've got to assume everything in a painting is deliberate. Now if you came in with a pipe and you insisted that the pipe was your particular personalised pipe was in your portrait, well, of course I'd paint it. But if you say, let's use a pipe as a prop.
Yeah, so I know you want me to be more involved with certain decision making in this, but I'm at pains to let you paint this in the way that you feel
Oh yeah?
fit.
Why is that thing not coming about?
Because that's kind of will give me more of an insight to what you think about me. Is that what this is all about?
I think you're getting slightly paranoid there.
Might be.
If I'm listening to you right, just concentrate on painting the big shiny black buttons at the moment, drawing them in. So maybe I missed you right, but you're saying that you actually want to tell me what your portrait should look like?
No, I'm saying no, I'm at pains for you to do it, not for me to be prescriptive or suggest this. I could suggest, I guess, but there's so much into it.
So do you want me to tell you a bit what I think about you? Is that what you're saying?
No,
And then
I would like to see that as a painting.
Okay. Well, I don't know that much about you really, because I think you don't really give that much away, and to me that's not a problem for making a portrait. I don't want to know every sort of like facet about your secret and your love life and personal life. And to know that your dad was a sea captain is enough.
Well, when you've painted a lot of portraits over the years, is there a...
Some people, it's a bit like being a hairdresser or something. Some people want to talk about what they're doing and blah 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 and how their marriage is and stuff like that. And families and their work, and other people just say, well, could you do a portrait of me? There's a photograph, I'll take a photograph and blah 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 and leave it. And I'll leave it to you because I like your paintings. And because my handwriting might have some sort of affinity with the person, that's enough. So I think fair enough. Why not? It doesn't really mean anything how much I know about you to make a portrait is not really that important. What is important is we are making a film about making a portrait, so therefore it's a completely different medium involved. So therefore I am, through the moving image, I'm asking about you. So therefore, for me to actually paint your portrait, no, I don't really need to know much about you, but because you're involved in a time-based thing as well, so therefore we need to talk about you.
Okay.
So, happy childhood was it?
Maybe you'd like to show the gadget to the camera.
Yeah, this is a new gadget I'm working with called
Sandy cam.
it's a Paint-O-Matic brush, which has got a little lens that actually can witness the painting on the palette itself. So for this, I'm painting the light side of my getting lighter. This will be shown clearly in the diagrams. Right, so now I'm going for the lighter parts of the light. Searching for the middle of the middle.
That sounds far too technical.
Well, no, that's was I'm just describing the actual brain thoughts. What am I doing here? I'm looking for the colour that goes between the highlight bit and the middle bit. So what do you call it?
P70442. So, underpainting, Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean any disrespect, but I remember you talking about underpainting a while back there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't imagine that was something that you paid too much attention to. Obviously you do.
What are you talking about underpainting?
Do you, is that something you utilise?
Underpainting, well,
Yeah.
like undercoat and
Yeah.
primer and stuff.
Well, colour, or would you do that? Would you?
I'd be aware that in terms of underpainting, it's like to not pull all your sort of like, say, not go so dark and so light at the beginning of the painting, so that you can't really have another darker tone to make. If you say, like, say if you use black and white at the beginning of the painting, so then the rest of the painting is going to be in middle tones, joining these two contrast together. So I'd say for me underpainting is just tempering the light and dark, so you're in like three tones, the actual slightly darker, slightly lighter, so that you've still got this range of things. Therefore that means you can build the paint. So therefore underpainting, yes. Is that not underpainting? Are you talking about like staining and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I don't know. It could be anything, couldn't it?
No. Well, yeah, it could be anything. That's why it can mean to be a bit more specific, no?
No, I don't feel. I feel that you've answered it for me.
When does underpainting stop becoming underpainting? When does underpainting become actual painting? When are you living or are you under living or you know what I mean? It's like, well, what is what? Painting's just beginning, no?
I won't ask you about that again.
I thought maybe you were trying to be clever with some sort of kind of there was some symbolic meaning by saying that or something, you know? Like me, up till this moment I've been doing 25 years of underpainting to this moment in time.
But you're quite a showman with it, aren't you?
No.
You are.
I'm not
You
a
talk
showman.
about that highlight thing, and you quite like that shadow thing, and so that's part of it, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It's a kind of performance thing.
If it wasn't, if you took all performance out art of making art, you'd just put it under the bed, wouldn't you?
You put it under the bed.
Yeah. When you finished it. Because we're public, we're performers, we're entertainers. Would you not agree? Not
well, if you're painting portraits, it's you've got two people there, haven't you? But if you're, I mean, I guess you still see that, don't you? You still see that highlight having been made.
Is it performance? I mean, I think painting's a performance, yeah. It's not a performance like your pantomime performance there, but I think there's an element, but of course it can't be denied. This is, if we had all the time in the world, I would actually lower everything in the painting here so that this issue that we've just talked about here with the top of the head, does it stay in the painting or does it go out? I would move everything down, buttons, collar, neck, everything down a couple of inches, but I don't really think it's a possibility. And plus the fact, then your eye, you as a person would be about 3 inches smaller, you would appear like a smaller person, so that's not going to work either. So we're just going to have to go for the true likeness and see where it goes. I think it's going to just go out the top of the painting, but I think that's more important than this kind of personal drive to keep it within the top of the picture. It's like if you're painting from photographs only, you can allow the kind of caricature thing to run with it in the portrait, and it gets a kind of a character of its own in the painting. But when you're faced with this constantly, with the immediacy of the situation, the realism, you're battling with your own handwriting versus actually what's there. So it becomes a kind of like that. So it's a kind of juggling act. So at the moment, it now looks like cartoon. So I've got to, and the features are they're all individual, look like you. And now I've got to spend time just shrinking everything down as if we went into kind of manual Photoshop mode. I'll just take each element and shrink it a little bit. So it sits within the head. I'm quite happy with the shape of the head and the way the shoulders sit. It looks, if you have closed your eyes, it does look kind of like you. But the features themselves need shrunken. So that's what I'm going to do. But I think that'd be kind of boring thing to film. So the next time, all the features will be slightly more in scale with reality. Because this is not a caricature, this is actually the main thing about this painting is it's obviously done from actuality, from reality. I'm going to start off today. I'm just going to look again at you, the shadow side of your face. Something uncomfortable about that. I don't know if it's the drawing, the shape, the silhouette dark against light, or the position of the left eye. So I'm just going to have a look at it and see. There's something wonky about it.
So this head here is about what? It's about 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
And you've done lots of portraits. You've done smaller portraits and
Smaller and bigger, yeah.
bigger ones. And what's the difference between doing do you ever do them life size?
Life size, yeah, I've done portraits life size, or people in the background life size. The actual portraits themselves are. This is, you find that there's scales that your own sort of like, that are suitable, that are paintable. This one's a kind of 1.5 feet, and then the larger ones would maybe be about a size and that and half again. So the largest heads might be double that size. The difference is, well, it depends what you're doing. Like the paintings that I did in Perpignan, the portraits of the women, they were all about. The heads were about double that size, but they were only of head and neck. What happens is, when you're trying to search for a likeness, you can, because of the scale, it allows you to sort of like go, what's the difference between that and that? and that and that and that becomes very much like a larger sort of like panoramic sort of thing, almost like a landscape. Whereas this, you're very much, because of the smaller scale, you're aware of the continuity, the whole sort of like the orchestration of it as a whole. A larger portrait means that you can separate it into like an ear, and then the distance between the ear and the eye, it can become almost like 2 kilometres or something visually. Whereas here it's you can get into that, but it kind of it's more natural just to see this as a whole head. So at the moment, like for instance, I'm worried about this area here, and it's how it works with that. Whereas if it was larger, this might be a horizon, or the side of a rock or something like that. So it's just scale, a different type of reality. So this is lit, and this is. I'm happy with the stage this is at. It does render that the light comes from the left hand side, and it's a warm light. What's happening then? You're going into this area, almost if it was a box. You're going flat shape, going that way. So what's happening is it's become. It's not quite descriptive of the temperature that's going on in there, which I want to be hot. I want it to be hot without jumping out at you. Now, obviously, with the blue behind, naturally, if I want to make that recede, I'll put some cooler tone in it. But I don't want to do that. I want to make it like sort of close up, intense, and heat in the shade. So I feel at the moment this is a little bit dead, paint-wise. So I'm going to not try and contrast the tones. If I contrast the tones too much, this is going to come out the way. Whereas if it's just warm, a little bit more warm in these areas here, I think it'll just give it a bit more heat, temperature. I'm now concentrating on this area, which is the shade, and what happens inside that particular part of the painting, which is a form that's going that way, but at the same time I want to retain heat in the shadow. So I'm going to start off with a overt tonal change here and here. Now, that's warming it up, and that's an overstatement, but it gives me a guide as how to plot the way through here. So that the lesser tonal changes, light, dark here, will be relative to this. So I'm going to take a light, I'm going to take a dark. So it's just going one darker, warm, and one lighter, so you've got a dark and a light. That dark. That dark. With creating hard edges and then soft edges, so that it kind of makes the edges descriptive of the material. At the moment, everything's got a kind of plastic quality, like everything in the painting is made out of plastic. So what I'll try to do is like make the jacket more like fluffy, the hair softer, and this then contrasts with the sort of more hard, although it's not hard like steel or wood or anything, but hardness of the bones and the skin. So it's just giving more character by the edges. So what I'm doing is I'm going around these edges and giving them a definition, either soft or hard.
What are you doing?
I've trimmed one of the brushes so that it might be small enough to render bristles.
Beard bristles?
But I've got to keep it quite liquid, because if it gets clogged up then it doesn't work. Right, so it's the fine line between keeping it quite formal and bringing it into a kind of different type of realism, just so that it's got an extra presence. Because at the moment, the beard is kind of in a different type of reality. From the skin's quite skin-like, quite descriptive. I think the jacket is, but I don't think the beard looks like that type of description of beard, so it needs bristles. So I'm going to put bristles on it. Where did that come from? And then Then I'm thinking, once I do that, then I think my initial feeling about the sky is that it's boring. It looks more like a random sky, which can be alright, but it's not so interesting. It doesn't place any particular mood. It looks like a snapshot sky. So I want to make it darker at the top.
Do you want to make it particular?
No, I just want to make it slightly lighter at the bottom and darker at the top, because I feel like with the something to do with the composition at the moment it's becoming flat, and I want it to come forward because the sea kind of goes that way, and this just looks like the backdrop that it's painted from. So I'd like it to be slightly more evocative, and I think the bonus point of that is that then the hair at the top will be slightly less samey and kind of monochrome. If you imagine that in monochrome, the blue and the grey is too similar. So I think if this was slightly darker, then that'll bring us forward a bit. So immediately I think of that, then I'll probably go on to put the thread through some of the bits of the jacket and the same.
Do you think that art can be taught?
Yes. If the person who's wants to be taught and is open-minded and already has some kind of curiosity and some kind of desire, yes, I think it can be taught. Up to a point. Teaching of art depends on the student taking information, editing it, and then using it for their own development. You've got to have a voice underneath it all. You've got to have a kind of... if you're teaching art, you need to recognise that the student has something that needs unearthed. And that's the job of a teacher in art, is to allow something that's already there. I don't think you could teach art to anybody, but if there's something there, which I think there is in a lot of people, to be brought out, then yeah, I think you can teach art. I think there's different levels of teaching art. I mean, you can teach somebody to be the best they can be when you're in the knowledge that the best that they're going to attain might not be superb or the best or something, but yeah, I think it's teachable.
So, do you, your painting, do you see yourself as a realist? Or as some other kind of ist that you would say was more important? Yeah, I guess what we're talking about is your painting. We're talking about portrait painting, I guess.
Right, an ist. An ist is confusing question because realist invokes a style of painting, whereas if you say someone's a realist away from the domain of the product, which is the painting, then you're talking about a type of way of thinking, a philosophy. So if I say I'm a humanist, so does that mean my paintings are humanist? Say, well, they are humanist, but so what does humanist art look like? So I don't know, because I mean, realist, no, they're not realist. If they were realist, they would look more real.
What would make them look more real?
To make them more realistic.
What would make them look more realistic?
Like the fact that you're watching me painting bristles and I'm painting them in a systematic way, which means that they have a certain reality that works within other realities that are consistent.
So you're talking about that as opposed to kind of photorealist?
Photorealist, superrealist, magic realist, expressionist realist, CGI realist, what we talked about, moralist, realist, religious, realist, blah blah blah. I mean, is anything realist?
If you're painting a portrait, I mean, would you? How far would you go to in the direction of flattering someone? Would it depend on the situation, or?
Right, to flatter someone is. It would always be my intention to flatter someone. If I thought I was going to do the opposite, what's the opposite? Is to make like a caricature or I don't really think there's any point in a. Now get me wrong if I'm using the word flattery here wrong. I mean that I would like a painting not to flatter someone, but to compliment the niceness or the good points, the positivity in them. I'm not interested in descriptions of disablement or ugliness or if somebody bears a scar, for instance, or somebody's got a black eye or something, and I don't think it's in any way unflattering. Of course, and it's part of their personality. Yeah, of course. I don't know flattering. I mean, like to make someone look good. Then you're in danger of losing the portrait, and then it becomes an idealist.
So what's happening here? You can't see it though, but because this camera has face recognition on it, and whenever it sees a face, it kind of makes a little square around it. Right. It recognises it as a face. It's quite interesting that I guess it could recognise other things as a face, like 3 dots on the wall. So I guess it's asking the same questions, isn't it? About is it photorealist or is it? When talking about portraits, my dad died in 2000, and I guess our family's not very close in the scheme of things. But I wanted to do something, you know, and I wanted to make some art to mark the event, and I did a series of video pieces which were about, you've got to imagine this, photographs, because I didn't have any film of him really, but photographs of him with my own face superimposed on top of it. And so you saw half of one, half of the other, and I'm asking him questions. So the idea is I was asking him questions that I didn't ask him. So it's a bit mawkish, but he had just died, and I was kind of quite emotional. It was emotionally felt, but it ended up looking like, you know, these Dorito adverts. It just looked ridiculous. It sounded worse. So it never came to anything, and I still have them. But there was a closeness there that I wanted, and I might somehow go back to it. I'm thinking of different kind of portrait kind of things that I've done. That's maybe the nearest in recent years.
Well, what you're describing sounds like a private thing, which wouldn't really need to either be put on a public platform for discussion or something. It sounds like something like a bit like a family wedding album. I mean, you don't necessarily, I mean, I know people do it, but I mean, I don't see the necessity for putting your wedding photographs on Facebook, for instance, to show all your friends, or what you did last weekend, for instance. It might just be between a nice time shared somewhere, and same with something like you're dealing with personal issues. You're dealing with sort of like an emotional sense of loss or something. So maybe it's.
So
questioning, no?
So looking at your work, then, I mean, there must be lots of times looking at your pantheon that you can see that you've been working through stuff. Yeah. Were there any particular kind of periods that is more obvious than others?
Well, in the making of this website, it's clear that it's the subject matter. Maybe not consciously at the time, but the subject matter is purely about circumstance and not only circumstance location-wise, but psychological-wise as well. So there's happier pains and there's more kind of not dark, but dark air. So they're descriptive of things like lovers or breakups or children or where you are, if you're happy there. But that's see that would say that is the motif in the paintings, but I don't really think it's clear in my website. I see that, but I don't really think it's relevant to the quality of the art. Or I don't think, oh, I like your this period because you were really upset then. And I say, well, I don't really see yeah, you can see that the subject matter maybe it's slightly miserable or something, like, but then that's just like identify. Like, say for instance, you could do it in pop music. You know, I like the Smiths or I like the Fall because of that. I said, well, that's because you identify with a certain type of mood or something. Doesn't mean to say like that Marky Smith or Morrissey can't come out with like really happy stuff as well. You know, if the record company allows it.
But there must be times. You paint a lot, and you paint often.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there must be times when you're doing it that you're imagining, like almost like an out of the body experience. You're imagining, well, what am I doing now, rather than being in it. You must be thinking about constantly thinking about why you're doing it and what you're doing. That wasn't a question, was it?
Why am I doing it? That's getting back to the other question about why do it. I go, fuck it, why not? That's what I do. What are you going to do today? I'm going hill walking. Why? What's the point? That hill's already been climbed. Why you want to do that? Because I want to. I said, well, why? What are you doing? I'm going to do a painting. Of what? There's nothing happening at the moment. There's nothing dramatic happening. You don't have any good ideas at the moment. So why are you doing that? Because why not? Because I like doing it. It's not because it's my job. It's because it's my vocation. And it's you can then say, well, you're just doing that for therapeutic reasons because it'll keep you out of the bar or something like that. No, there's that. But I trained to be a painter. I trust that my work develops. I keep doing it. I've got other things that are different, i.e. music or other things that I do. So this is what I do. And I don't mean that even in a defensive way or anything like that. It's just like, well, that's it. It's just silly questions. Like,
Okay. So I always imagine that it's quite hard to make art. In fact, when I say make art, it's make art that I feel is good for me and worthwhile. And because of that, I imagine that it's quite elitist, but only because I'm being very honest, and it's got to do with my life and me and what I do, and if you take time out almost to quantify that, you can. It's almost like not being truthful. Would you say there's any? And so perhaps it is kind of an elitist activity, but that's only because I'm absolutely in it, and it's through no. I don't mean it to be, but it just is. I mean, would you say there's any of that in? What would you say about that?
I would say that we live in a culture that dictates that what we make as fine art, as opposed to mass imagery, is unique, one-off proofs or something like that, which means that they're luxury items. That's not dictated by artists. That is the culture that we live within. If we lived in a Marxist system, then the whole, even like a Renaissance religious system or a Roman dictatorial system, artists were employed in a different way, and we were not elitist. We were functional members of society who had special skills, who were used and employed to make something that was definitely not elitist. So I would say in an idealist scenario, which I would say is untenable, which would be a socialist republic, for instance, my work would not be elitist. I would be
The emperor.
no, I'd be just a respected artist. I would,
Do you feel that you're not?
yes, but I'm a respected artist of luxury items. I'm not of that huge group. Then I'm not elitist. I don't think. I think what I do is quality, but I don't. I still am uncomfortable with the fact that we do make elitist luxury items which are affordable only to very few people. Therefore, yeah, we're in an elitist market. Would you say ballet was elitist?
Not if you were a dancer.
Would you go to the ballet?
I'm not really there. I guess the ballet, I mean, when I go there, it's the same with theatre.
When you go to the ballet? When's the last time you
Occasionally
went?
I've been to the ballet.
Did you feel...
Not
you
for
would
a long time.
Did you feel it was elitist thing to do?
I didn't really care if it was or not. I guess for a lot of people it is.
Oh,
I think what I'm more interested is the visual aspects.
all right. So if you take opera, right? Now, if you go to opera in this day and age, it is an elitist thing to do because it's not affordable or accessible to the vast majority of people. The actual operas that they are going to see, though, were in fact designed much like blockbuster cinema for mass watching in huge theatres. So therefore the role, let's say Carmen's a mass, totally non-elitist opera. Shakespeare's mostly, if you take Shakespeare out of the context of being a elitist, i.e. in brackets intellectual, the way it's been taken apart by elitists, by intellectuals, deliberately to separate it from what the proletariat can begin to understand, i.e. symbolism, all sorts of different levels of meaning. What you're doing is actually making it elitist. You can do that with art as well, or you can just say, well, it's there, it's a visual thing. To be non-elitist about art is just that I make a portrait of you. What is it? It's a portrait of you. Why not? That's what I do. Done it well. It's good.